Hi, my name's Kay Cook, and I'm delighted to be presenting to you at the NLP Global Summit 2024, specifically on Sunday, the 21st of January. I so look forward to seeing you there. The workshop that I'm going to run for the Global NLP Summit is based around my work with children and families. The title of my workshop is Using Stealth to Ignite Next Generation Thinking, or specifically thriving. And in order to unpick that, we have to understand what thriving means. And one of the obstacles that I come across on a regular basis in my work is I'm being presented with children who apparently have a problem or are a problem. And children cannot operate in isolation alone. They belong to a structure, a system that is a family system, which in turn belongs to a system, a community system, and so on. And so we have to understand how the systems work, how they are fed, what the strands of energetic influence are within the system. Unfortunately, a lot of my work, the parents bring a child and say, here is the problem, fix it, and don't understand their own part to play in the so-called problem. And it's incredibly complex, and we haven't got time to delve into that at this workshop. But what we can do is come up with some proven and tried and tested techniques and strategies for getting the parents on board to acknowledge that they do have an important role to play in the way that their children are developing. Richard Bandler often talks about giving children a good direction, and I wonder what that means for you, because we find that parents often don't think about the direction of the neurology, psychology, biology that is evolving within their family unit. So for example, when we ask parents, what are your hopes and desires for your child as your child grows up? They often reply things like, well, I want them to have a good job. I want them to earn lots of money. I want them to have a good education. I want them to be able to afford the things that I couldn't afford. Those are the typical responses that we get from parents. What I'd like to see more of is a future generation who have the capability for collaboration, cooperation, curiosity, creativity, for being compassionate, those vital things that will ensure that they are then able to self-regulate their emotions, they'll be able to make good decisions, they'll be able to behave with integrity. So we might think about the long game. What are we aiming our brains towards? What can stop us achieving those things? And the usual things that pop up is where parents get a bit stuck with their beliefs about themselves as parents, about parenting in general, and about the children. And we know from NLP that the beliefs are fuel for the direction in which we're traveling. So we need to address what we would call in NLP the limiting beliefs of the family system. And that's often very tricky. So we're looking to unpick some of the so-called limiting beliefs of a family system. Some of those beliefs are so deeply embedded, so deeply unconscious, that they've existed for generations before. Beliefs, the easy ones are religious beliefs, but on a daily practical level, we're talking about beliefs such as it's right to do this and it's wrong to do that. Instead, in order to build a thriving future, We want the children to be able to challenge those with maybe, what if, how else, the who, what, why, where, when. We want the children to understand that their programming to date is simply their programming to date, but they can use their conscious minds to re-engineer, reprogram themselves at any point in their journey through life. When we come into contact with parents who hold that belief that this is a lifelong, wonderful journey of exploration of themselves, of each other, of the family dynamic and the children involved, when the parents come from the position of these children are unique and wonderful individuals with unlimited potential, it's just a question of tapping into their potential and just nudging them towards a future that they're going to be joyfully enjoying. Those kind of attitudes are what we want to develop. When we come across parents who are fearful, there's something wrong with their children, there's something wrong with them, there's something wrong with their background, there's something wrong with the school, the children around their own child, those limitations need addressing. And because so often parents come saying, this child has a problem, they're not always ready to address that problem themselves, for themselves and their role to play in it. A great way of thinking about this is, in NLP terms, a well-formed outcome. I've long puzzled over well-formed outcomes. We know that this is NLP 101. It's the first thing we teach in a practitioner, and it's the first thing we go to when we're doing any change work. Let's elicit the well-formedness of the goal, the outcome that our client wants. Straightforward, yeah, we all understand that. So where it doesn't work, and I've pondered this for a long time and spoken with Richard Bandler about it, where it doesn't work is in families, because the family has a well-formed outcome for their child or children. And that well-formed outcome can only come from their own model of the world, their own map of the world. And yet that's not the territory that the child is A, evolving, and B, going to continue to evolve into. So what I'm very keen to do when I'm working with families is to help the parents to see that we can give them a direction. Richard Bandler says, what children need is a good direction, and the direction towards cooperation, collaboration, creativity, curiosity, the ability to self-regulate their emotional states, the ability to get clarity and make good decisions and reflect on behaviors that work and don't work and take responsibility for the results they get in their everyday living. That's the future that we want to be priming our children for. Clarity of good quality thinking and decision making. That's the conscious mind, the biological mammalian needs for social interaction, for connection, collaboration, contact, and at the deeper neurological level, understanding that the program is only a program. It's just the map of the world to date. And at any point it can be adjusted, redesigned, re-engineered. So who is running the show for the children's well-formed outcomes? And often my job is simply working with all attention, that's the mind of the family, on a so-called problem, but actually covertly, I'm working stealthily to adjust the beliefs and the direction of the thinking of the whole family, usually through the primary caregiver. which is why I never work with small children on their own, only ever in the presence of their parents. And the wonderful skills of Milton model enable us to work covertly with anybody else in the room. And so what we're going to do during the workshop is to look at some techniques for identifying those beliefs that inevitably need challenging, we might say. They certainly need addressing, and they need bringing to the consciousness of the parents, primary caregivers. We're going to look at ways to invite the parent to look way much further along the timeline than they're currently looking at. We're going to invite the parents to consider their own consciousness and their own beliefs about what education means, what money means, what rules they've acquired through time. Most importantly, we need to prepare our children for the future in which they are going to inhabit, not the one that we have come through. This is such a key element to preparing the next generation for thriving. So do join me during this workshop on January the 21st, 2024, where I'll be discussing the non-conscious beliefs of the system that supports a child and ways that we can bring those beliefs to consciousness and hopefully give a new direction and a much clearer, more concise, thriving direction using our Happy Brain tools. I'm going to be sharing with you tips, techniques, case studies, examples, and in lifetime, whatever else you as the audience choose to focus on. So I really look forward to seeing you then. And until then, I hope that you take very good care of your happy brain.